let's call this meeting of the Village of Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals to order. And I invite you to stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I think we are being recorded for purposes of the video, and I do have the little recorder somewhere.
I always think it's good to have it as a backup. Every once in a while, it's happened to me, the recording didn't.
If not, let me know. I'll start like a random Zoom and.
Oh, I've got it here somewhere. I'm afraid.
There's nothing in there.
Oh, that is my wallet. So maybe I shouldn't have started our meeting until we had
No,
our.
that's okay.
Well,
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, where is it?
we have our. Here we go. It's a tiny little thing. It got caught up in my keys. Okay. So let's see.
That looks like a thing.
Well, the more amazing thing is I've somehow managed to activate it already. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to suggest everybody adjust their mics so that we can be heard properly.
Are these on? I don't think they're on.
Yeah, we're on.
Hello?
I'm told.
Mine's not
I
on.
think we just made a real nuisance of ourselves on our video because I'm told they're quite sensitive anyway.
Okay.
Okay, and let's begin. Viewers of the Village of Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals may notice that we have an unusual board composition tonight. The first thing that one might note is that Chairman Baum is not with us tonight. He is unavailable, and I will be chairing the meeting in his place. The truly keen-eyed will notice that Christine Callanan, our zoning board secretary, is also not with us this evening. And so I must explain that Christine has resigned as of last Friday, which I did not know until today, in fact, but she will not be continuing with us. And I would like to say to Christine, if she hears this, that I really appreciated her work as our secretary. She was a very quick learner and did a lot to keep us on track, and she will be missed. So we will have to carry on without her, and I guess we also should say welcome back to Kelly, who hasn't been with us for a while. Yay! So we're pleased to have you, though we were fortunate to have Ashley with us in the interim. Okay. The first order of business on our agenda is the 15 Park case. However, because, and I should also point out that member Margada is not with us tonight. He is unwell. So we will have only 4 members, and I will ask alternate member Ben Rose to sit in and join us as a voting member, and that way we will have 4 tonight. All right, so our first order of business was the 15 Park case. However, I have heard from Mitchell Mayer, the attorney representing the applicant, that he would prefer to adjourn until the July meeting, when hopefully we will have a complete board. And so I think in, let's see, do we need a proper motion and vote to adjourn here, Kelly? All right. Would anyone care to make the motion? Okay, motion to adjourn 15 Park Avenue case until our July meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you both. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will adjourn our 15 Park case until the July calendar. Okay, that brings us to our other case, 123, 125 Elm Street. And we have the representatives for the applicant here with us tonight. Now, let's see. We have reached the point of deliberations among our board members, and ordinarily we would be considering the various the five-part balancing test as to each of our variance requests. But in preparing to chair the meeting, I found that there were a number of things that I did not properly understand, and I fear we're going to have to do a little bit more homework, I think, before we can get into actually making our assessments and doing our five-part balancing test. And so I will try to work through these issues quickly so we can get to that properly. The first thing I want to discuss, when last we left the case in April, we had talked about screening a bit towards the end of the discussion. And it was my understanding, and I think the testimony of our the representatives for the applicant, that the planning board had authorized the storage lot to remain unscreened along the Elm Street side. Right. However, village code requires that that a storage lot be screened from all property lines. So that is, let's see, 251-0 states that not more than 5 licensed vehicles requiring minor repairs may be left outside for a period not to exceed 48 hours, and these shall be effectively screened from all property lines. So what that means is that the screening is not at the discretion of the planning board. It's in the code. And therefore, the planning board can't authorize that. And what you need, if you want to go ahead without screening along the Elm Street side, is a variance. So to this list of 7 variances that we have already, if you want to go ahead with that plan, we need to add an 8th variance, and that would be to permit the screening along the Elm Street side to not be done. So it is my recommendation to the board that we just take that up as an 8th variance. I did correspond with actually Tori about this, and she suggested that because the piece of code 251-0 was already in the applicant's list, that no amended application was necessary, and that we could go ahead and add this as an 8th variance to be considered by the board. So I think then I should probably ask you gentlemen if you want to proceed on that basis so that you can go ahead with the plan that you described as it was settled with the planning board.
I'm in agreement with that. I mean, in general, that 251.0 was listed, even though we might not have been specific about the screening portion of it. I agree with Ms. Torrey's and your understanding of what the code says. So I think
Yeah.
we'd be in agreement with adding that. That's fine. Or at least being
Yeah.
more descriptive.
Well, you're either going to have to put the screening in, or you can try to get the variance.
Variance.
Those are your,
Yeah, the variant. The
Or-
screening is impossible for
or
us.
be in violation of the
Yeah.
law, I guess. Those are, I think, your logical
That's
choices.
correct.
Okay, so we should then take that up as an eighth variance. And now, I had some questions about some of the variances that are already requested. So, 251I, there is a request for a variance from 251I to permit the storage of vehicles within a required yard. However, 251I has many sections to it. And so before we can really take up this variance request, we need to understand which sections of 251I are you requesting relief from, and what is the nature of the relief exactly?
I'm going to probably need to get 251I up real quick on my iPad to take a look at it and make sure that I look at everything. If you can give me a moment.
Yeah.
So 200-51I, you said.
Yeah. I've got it here.
Storage of vehicles. Areas devoted to the storage of vehicles and equipment shall be ample in size and well screened and shall not encroach on any required yard area. Should be in compliance with all regulations and requirements under this chapter. Is that correct?
This is the one. So, this is the trouble. I think this last clause here, it should be in compliance with all regulations and requirements under this chapter. So, a variance from this, from I, could be read to be a variance of all regulations and requirements under the chapter, which I think is probably not what you're requesting. But if you could clear up for us just exactly what is the nature of the variance that you are seeking, there, that would, I think, help.
We can go through each letter quickly, if that helps. I mean, because that's kind of what we're going to have to do, if that's what you're suggesting. So in B, we were clear about the setbacks. I think those are noted on the plan. We don't have any gasoline pumps. We don't have any canopies, so that wouldn't apply. Lighting, we're not seeking anything, any variance or any waivers from that. The existing lighting on the site is currently adequate for the project, so there's nothing required there. D, screening, I think we just kind of went over that. So we are able to provide screening on the, let me get my map out. We're able to provide screening on the southern side of the site. We have a landscaped easement there, so we're providing screening there. We were looking to provide screening along the the western side of the site, but as I discussed at the last meeting, the Orange County Department of Public Works is not looking for us to place privacy slats on the fence on their property. So we would look to have a variance from screening potentially from the front yard, the rear yard, technically both side yards. So from one side yard, the right side yard, the one to the south, we have screening. So front yard, rear yard, and one side yard that's to the north.
Yeah, you want to go with the existing screening plus screening to the north, correct?
So one more time to reiterate, we have screening through a landscaped easement on the southern property line. That's one side yard. So that's the only yard we don't need relief from. We need relief from the front yard. We'd need relief from the rear yard screening. We'd need relief from the north yard, or to the left. We'd need some relief there also. Does that make sense?
When you're saying right and left, is it as you're looking at the property or when you're standing on the property?
If I'm standing if I'm on the street looking at the property,
Okay.
I'll give it to you several ways.
Yeah, just give it to me the easy way.
That's fine.
There's the property, I'm looking at it.
If I'm on the street looking at the property,
Yeah,
the side yard to the left
okay,
is the only yard we're able to provide screening from. The front yard, as you're looking at it, cannot provide screening. The rear yard, we're not providing screening,
right.
just in general. Mr. Deutsch does bring up somewhat of a point. We do have vegetation along the Heritage Trail side, which is the rear yard. Do we have privacy slots there? Oh, that's right, we do. He's right. So we don't need the rear yard. Thank you.
Well,
So
you
it
need
actually-
it, and you've already got it.
Yes. So we just need the front yard, and we need, which is obviously when I'm looking at the
Yeah,
property in
that's what I
front,
was.
and then the side yard to the right.
Hmm.
If you're looking at the map, that would be the northern property line, and it would be obviously the front yard, which is the eastern property line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Heritage Trail is in the rear and you
Correct.
have the screening.
Correct.
Mhm. Okay. Did we get to the bottom of the variance that you're requesting from section I? Then I wonder.
Well, should we just take a look at the other ones real quick before we get to I? I mean, a dumpster enclosure, we don't need anything. Outside operations, we're not dispensing gasoline. We're not doing any work outside the building. Storage and display, we're not storing anything outside the building, so we don't need G. Nothing in H applies either. Well, actually, it wouldn't matter. If we do any of that, any kind of car washing or whatnot, it will be within the building. There's a condition on the plan from the board, the planning board, that is that all work is done inside the building. Landscaping, so that was H. I, storage of vehicles. So this is what we were talking about before. Areas devoted to storage of vehicles and equipment shall be ample in size and well screened and shall not encroach on any rear required yard area. We are encroaching on, I believe, just about every yard area. I think we had discussed that at the last meeting. If I took the front yard setback, I think at 50 feet, and the rear yard at 40 feet, you technically wouldn't have any room to store any vehicles on this site. So the site in itself geometrically is not even capable of doing that. So
So,
I
go
could
ahead,
just
Kelly.
say one thing. In this section 251I, I think what you were just going through was the subsections of section 200-51. But that last provision of 200-51I talks about being in compliance with all regulations and requirements under this chapter. The chapter is chapter 200, which is zoning. So I think it's a little bit broader than that. I think in anything that this board does, there would need to be in that decision a comment saying that they would need a variance from that ending provision, because by requesting variances from other provisions, there's no way that they're going to be in compliance with every provision of this chapter because they're going to have variances from those. So I think one thing that would have to be in any action the board takes, but one thing that I think the chairman this evening is asking as well is to clarify, so you're saying the beginning part of I, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, talks about areas devoted to the storage of vehicles and equipment shall be ample in size and well screened and shall not encroach on any required areas. So those are three different elements. Right now, you've talked about just being well screened, and we talked that you need a variance from the front yard and one side yard, the one
For screening.
on the right for screening, and that you encroach on all 4 yard areas.
For the storage of vehicles, actually, it would be the front yard, the rear yard, and it would be the, standing on the road, the side yard to the left, or on the map, it would be the southern property line. The other opposite property line setback is all the way on the other side, very far away, so we actually wouldn't need that.
So is a variance needed for ample in size?
We have 36 cars shown. I feel that that's ample in size for this particular operation.
I suppose one has to ask what we mean by ample in size, and I think that surely means that the size of the lot is sufficient that the vehicles can be maneuvered without any difficulty, and such that they're not, being that you're not having to use the public road in order to to get your vehicles positioned properly on the lot, right? So I think ample relative to the number of vehicles that you're trying to work with, I think is what we're talking about.
Then I would suggest that we may need a variance from that as well.
Okay.
You write that down. So then for that provision, I think it sounds like they're gonna need, it's gonna need to be parsed out in anything that this board does from each and every element of that. So it's just one variance, but it would be each and every element of that provision.
So I think when the board gets to discussing this particular variance, we now understand that what we're talking about is that there's an issue with the size of the lot. The lot is, one might say, a little congested, and that is by design. That there is an issue with screening. We've already talked about how there needs to be an additional variance on that score because the screening is also mentioned in O as well. So we'll get into screening, and we'll talk about encroachment on the required yard. So I guess when we're talking about the yard area, we're saying that you have to get into the setbacks. That's how we're understanding yard here.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that helps a lot. Now I think we have a better understanding of what is requested. Okay. Now, in our fifth variance, section 264A and B asks that we provide a variance for an increase in a nonconformity. What is the nonconformity that is being expanded and that you need relief in order to expand?
Is that a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So if we took a look at specifically 264, I think I discussed B with the board at the last meeting. So it states non-residential buildings or structures, normal maintenance and repair, structural alteration and moving reconstruction. And I think the text begins to become applicable to this project at this point. Enlargement of a building or structure which does not house a non-conforming use. So this is a conforming use via special use permit, but is non-conforming as to the district regulations for lot area, We don't meet lot area. We are combining the lots to reduce the lot area variance, but we don't meet it. We do meet lot width. We do not meet the front yard, again, although a pre-existing non-conforming situation. We do meet side yard. We do not meet rear yard, again, a pre-existing non-conforming situation. And we do meet height or lot coverage. So this is permitted if the same does not increase the degree of or create any new nonconformity with such regulations in such building or structure. So I think as it relates to that particular section, I highlighted what we were looking for specific relief from. That would be the lot area, the front yard, the rear yard, and I think it's important to note that we're not increasing the degree or creating any new nonconformity in some general manner. If you recall, I believe the rear yard setback was from one of the existing buildings that actually we need the variance from. Although the new building would need a variance as well, the real variance is for the existing building rear yard and an existing building front yard. So the new buildings are not creating setbacks that are substandard to those which already exist. As a matter of fact, they're quite larger than those that already exist.
So now, is there an increase in a nonconformity here that we're looking at, or?
In my opinion, I think what we're looking for is, so maybe if we look at the site plan, it might be more helpful to guide us through that. So if you take a look at sheet number 3, I'll wait till you catch up.
Yeah, I think we might need a little time here. Just for unfolding purposes.
That's where I waste most of my time during the day.
I was gonna say, you probably already got it up on your iPad, right?
No fair.
That's why I've switched to one of these suckers.
Hang on, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it.
Let me tell you, Kelly, this is the best thing I've ever invested in.
So sheet G is our third sheet, I'm hoping.
That's hopefully so, yes.
Okay,
So if you can find the existing one-story framed office building that has number 125 in front of it, that would be, looking at the plan view, kind of in the upper left-hand corner of the property.
okay, number 125, one-story framed office.
Yep,
Yeah, because I'm not sure what we're looking at, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're talking about this here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm sorry, what are we looking at?
so if you find that building, I just want you to find the building first.
Right, I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries, no worries. So look to the front left corner of that building, you're gonna see a dimension there, it says 11.2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the front yard variance we're seeking tonight. It's from an existing building. So if you go to the right, now where I'm actually showing the proposed 2000 first floor addition, it's the gray hatched area of the building. Is everybody with me on that?
Yes, I
If you
think,
look at the front right corner of that, it says 18.9 feet. You'll see a dimension there, front right corner, 18.9 feet.
Come on over here and point to it.
Sure.
thank you for saying that.
Aha, okay, good.
Do you guys see that?
Yep,
Yep.
now we
So
got
from
it.
a front yard variance standpoint, the proposed building is not increasing the nonconformity of the front yard setback. It's an existing building at 11.2 feet. It is the actual variance we have to seek before this board. It's a pre-existing nonconforming situation. Does that make sense?
Not yet, not to me. What do the two measurements have to do with one another? We got two different buildings here.
So if you're looking at that section of the code that we were looking at before, it's suggesting that we just are not increasing the nonconformity. So in other words,
Right.
my proposed building is not less than 11.2 feet.
Okay, so, but arguably, That's a good argument. I like it. But arguably, I would say that yes, you would need a variance because you're making a building addition that is closer than the 29.3
Yeah.
that currently exists.
For sure, that's what's triggering us coming here.
Right, and although it's less than the 11 on the other building, which the board recognizes, it's still closer than the 29. So,
Yeah.
But the funny part of it is my variance has to be for that existing building, because that's the actual threshold. That's the closest front yard that I have on the site, regardless. I'm not asking for 18.9, I'm asking for 11.2. I have to.
well, it depends on how the decision is drafted, per which building. So you'd be asking for 11.2 on the 125 here, and then for this building, you'd be asking for 18 point,
Right, a reduction from
right?
40 to 18.9 or whatever.
And the reason I phrase it that way is because depending on how something is written, somebody could come back and argue that 11.2 stretches the entire length of that frontage. And then the dwelling I just said dwelling because it says dwelling, but the building could be extended however long and could always be 11.2 feet rather than just being limited to the 520 square feet that it is. But I see what you're saying, but that would be my explanation to the board. If that was easy to follow, and I doubt it was because I realized that was a little choppy, but.
And I would argue, again, the same point for the rear yard, that the building in the back that's the one-story framed garage shows a rear yard setback of 4.9 feet. And our proposed addition is showing it at 21.1 feet.
19.3, because that's the closest corner.
Is that what I have on the table?
Well, 21.3 would be the furthest of the two corners, but I would say you would be getting a 16.2.
Oh,
from
actually, okay, that's existing, but I see your point. That's an existing portion of the building.
Yeah,
But we will be on a second floor on top.
Right, no, I see.
So technically, maybe you're right, would be 16.2.
first floor addition with. Yeah, so I think if you've got the 2,000 on the side and the 4,000 above, then the variance would be up as well, so I would say that one would be the 16.2.
16.2, I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna throw this out there, because I know we're doing a lot of kind of talking and just throwing numbers that I don't think, and I'm not sure that the applicant will like this suggestion, but we're throwing a lot of numbers out there, and what I think may be helpful for the board is for everything that we're discussing tonight, perhaps a chart or a narrative to this board may be helpful, so that when you do the 5-part test, you can actually say, okay, this one, which we talked about, which is, hold on, I just zoomed out, I don't know why I keep zooming out, 16.2 from this building, okay, let's do the 5-part test for this. Okay, this one, which is 11.2 for whatever is this variance, let's talk about this one. And I think that might be helpful for really not just the board, but also actually for the applicant. You'll have it clearly set out. I know it would be helpful for me to draft a decision, but I think would be
Well,
helpful.
we're up to 8 variances, some of them with parts, multiple parts.
Seriously?
I mean, at what point
I-
do we revisit what I asked 2 months ago, when we may want to investigate a new site that is more conducive to the gentleman's growth in business, as opposed to making this structure that is so far
Well,
out of whack that it's...
We engaged that conversation with the applicant.
How'd it go?
Not well. It's not, it's
This
not.
conversation may not be
Well,
going
it's-
well either.
well, Jim,
Seems like he may be in a, was it round peg, square hole?
Yeah,
or
I mean, at some point,
something like
the
that?
threshold of absurdity is when we start getting into double-digit variances, I feel. And we're
Well,
approaching that
It's,
quickly.
I
but,
think,
but if I could, I mean,
No.
it's a, I'll go back to the way this code was drafted. you're going to be hard pressed to find an auto body shop in the village of Monroe that does not violate a majority of these requirements.
Well, I don't know.
They're not here before this board looking for
that
any.
maybe is overstating a bit. Because many of these variances stem from the historical nonconformities of this particular site.
Right.
And those are not shared by other businesses in the village. With respect to parking, and storage of vehicles, there is a common issue there. But that is only part of, what the applicant is looking to, to wrestle with here. Much of this stems from, I'm afraid, the rather unusual property that this business is on.
It's an unusually shaped property to begin with a use that's been there for a long time, and I'm not in disagreement with that statement.
Right. Okay. So I think we should store in the back of our minds for just a moment the suggestion by our attorney that maybe we need to reorganize this, that might be worth doing. But I think we ought to, let's see if we've got a little clarity on this particular point, that there is a nonconformity here in the sense that the front setback is not up to standard, and that's going to be exacerbated by this plan, right?
We are seeking essentially a variance for the addition as well. It's not as
Right.
great as the 11.2 feet, but it is still a variance.
Right. Okay. So just so everybody is clear, because there, it was a little bit unclear, at least to me, what nonconformity we were was potentially being expanded. I think the front setback is one. Is there anything else that we're talking about here? Because I think if we get to a decision, if we assume that you get an affirmative on this variance, the decision will state that that this particular variance would be for the front the setback and not any other nonconformity that might have been introduced in the plan.
Yeah,
So just so we make sure that we are all talking about the same.
I think as
issue.
Kelly mentioned before, we would probably be specific
Yeah.
and say 11.2 feet is the minimum associated with building number 125, and then we also have 18.9 associated with the
The other
proposed
building.
building. So that,
And then the rear.
I mean, even though it's shown on the site plan with whatever the setback is, I think it's worth probably crafting
Well, but I
it
guess
that way.
what I'm saying is that your variances are not phrased in that way, but the decision will be. The decision will say, if it's found that the variance is justified, the decision is going to be clear about exactly what the board found to be acceptable.
I take no exception to
Right.
that. We can be very specific. There's no,
Yeah, okay.
there's no exception taken to that.
Let's keep moving here. Okay. And now, for some lighter topics. So this case involves what, for zoning boards, or at least me, is one of the most interesting and entertaining setbacks I've ever encountered, and that's the negative setback on the rear of the property, where, as we all know, there's a portion of the Heritage Trail that's fenced in. And I know that this was taken up with the county and that something's being worked out with the county. But our decisions here are kind of contingent upon things having been worked out with the county. And so I'd just like to ask, how's that going? As I understood it, the county legislature was to affirm the understanding that it was all right to have that strip of land fenced in.
Mhm.
And I think, well, I don't know the details. I just want to know, Do they go ahead and affirm that, or where does that stand?
I don't think, I'll let Mr. Deutsch talk on
Sure.
We got an agreement, we signed it. It has to go to process, it goes to risk management, and it goes to all the control and getting back signed. We had an issue with the insurance certificate. That's the requirement that they were asking, and the insurance was provided, so that's holding been in discussion between the council.
So they're wending their way through a very detailed process, and it's just not yet
We
affirmed.
didn't have the final yet.
Got
But
it.
The county drafted us a letter, gave us a letter, we signed it, sent it back, so it goes to the problem until we have the final approval.
So there's an understanding, it's just not that there are some of these
It's pending.
peripheral issues that have to be worked out, and the final okay has not been reached yet. Okay. Kelly, what do we do with that? Can we go ahead and, issue variances?
Point out on here where that is for me.
Well,
Can one of you point out
What do we
where
ask?
this fence, I know what the,
Oh, yeah, sure.
so this is where I'm at.
So,
Oh, sorry, it's here.
that's okay. So this is, yes.
Being removed.
It's, what date is this
It's
plan?
an old plan.
Yeah, so that's been taken off that note. We were gonna remove it at one time, because we thought the county wouldn't, but it
what happens?
turned out they will,
For some reason,
they're
they-
retaining it, so this fence here is
Thing
what
falls
we're talking
apart.
about, it falls on county land, it's gonna stay.
It's gonna stay,
It's
and
gonna
that's where the extra landscaping,
Well, yeah, between here and here, there's some vegetation.
okay. Okay, so for right now, since you're not gonna be acting tonight, they may have it updated by next time. So you're
If we
gonna,
assume we're not acting tonight. I think we have to reach some understanding there, is all I'm saying. I
Yeah,
think that was a
and-
good suggestion.
but I think that you have to understand that the property line you're dealing with is here. We don't know what their agreement says right now. So without knowing what the agreement actually says, the property could change hands or whatever, and while variances would run with the land, I don't know that the agreement would run with the land because I don't know what it says. So you have to consider it from property lines.
Mhm. So,
What are
Mr.
we
Deutsch,
What are we considering from property lines?
The variances.
Oh, no, they're shown that way.
Yeah, no, I know they are. He was asking, about the agreement with the county. I said, I don't know what that says, and he said, how would that impact this application? And I said, well, without knowing what that's saying, kind of set that aside.
this is something
The
else.
variances are gonna
This
be
is the
measured from the
GML.
property lines, and that's what the board would be considering, so.
Liz Cassidy's office does have a copy of that.
Oh, she does?
She does.
Okay.
And-
Natalie, Stephanie. from the
Stephanie
county.
has it?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's along with the county.
Okay, so I'll just,
You can
I'll
reach out
email
to Liz, or
Stephanie
yeah,
and
you can
Liz,
easily
yeah.
get that. If not, let me know and we'll get it to you.
What's your sense, if you have one, of the likelihood that they're going to finish that process in the near future?
No, normally is, you have an agreement, they're not giving you the agreement to sign. Now, I'm not dealing now with the county attorney, now we're dealing with the, county, park commissioner, because it's already signed off on the attorney, so it goes to the steps that we need to go. We already
Right.
worked out an agreement, the
Right.
agreement is in place.
Right,
We just need to get to the final approval.
right.
We already have an understanding, we have,
No, I do understand that. I'm asking, do you have a sense of whether or not you'll get the final approval, let's say, in the next month?
I hope we'll get it. We're trying to find, we hope, I didn't, something will happen that I will say no, but
I think,
In the normal
government
situation-
moves pretty slow, so
Right.
we're
But
seeing
we had an
that.
issue with the insurance certificate, the requirement that they asked me, and the insurance carrier said that didn't make any sense, so we went back and forth with that, I think so.
Yeah.
Last conversation was last week between the two attorneys, that we come to an agreement to change the way the insurance certificate will be able to provide it. and
Right.
it goes to the next. It's possible to have it in the
Right.
next
So I
month.
get the sense that we just don't know. It is entirely possible that things will fall into place in the next month, and it may very well be that one of these issues causes this to drag on longer, right?
And I think so it's going to be, in the planning board process, it's a part of the condition that,
If I could. So I'm dealing with a road taking dedication around the county. You don't know, it could happen in a month, it could happen in 6 months. I can tell you that my road dedication, it's gotta be like 4 months, and I finally just got, and it cleared everything, it went through all the channels. Having said that, I don't believe can have an approved signed site plan until that document is received by the planning board. So I might suggest that this board, in Kelly's office, could draft a resolution with some type of language in it that states that in other words, your approval and your resolution is conditioned upon us actually getting this final signed document. Just so that we're not sitting here in limbo with the ZBA. We will be sitting in limbo with the planning board. I'd rather not sit in limbo with 2 boards if possible. That ZBA resolution becomes null and void if obviously we can't produce that document.
I'm just emailing Stephanie for it right now to try and get the wheels
Sure.
moving.
Now, what do you think of that, Kelly? Is that, would that clear the way for us to work through our balancing tests, or do we really have to have a resolution on this issue before we can?
I don't think so. I think it's more contingent on the planning board's resolution, like Mr. Morganti said. I think that anything that this board does, certainly we can note it in a footnote if we think that it's necessary. I don't think that your variances are contingent on it. No.
Okay, so it's good to have the update, but we needn't wait for that to reach any particular state of affairs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, and I thank you, gentlemen, for
Sure.
that update. Okay, I want to ask about air pollution issues arising from painting. Was this something discussed with the planning board at the SECRA review?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so they've taken that on.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, fine. That's good. And now we're on to the last of my additional items. As I recall, the plan for the upstairs calls for 6 offices
I believe so.
upstairs. And as I'm sure you gentlemen both know, the law requires us to grant the minimum variance that meets a need, and I don't understand the need here. I don't know what the 6 offices are for. I must admit, I have not seen an auto repair facility with as many as 6 offices. So if you could just explain why that is the absolute minimum that would meet the need, what the need is, and why 6 offices are needed to meet it, that would put us in a position to, to engage with that, I think.
Sure. I mean, I may need to lean back on the owner, the applicant themselves, as I do not run an auto body shop, but we have purchasing, right? I mean, so I have an old car. I do a lot of refurbishing on the old car, and I'm starting to realize like the things you need to do if you are in the car business. So I can just give you my best guess and estimate.
Well, I think we don't want to guess, though.
We certainly have like billing and receiving, right? This is any business. You're going to have purchasing, because when you run an auto body shop or you're looking for parts for any car, that in itself is its own office or 2, because it takes a long time to track parts, purchase parts, get parts delivered. I'm doing this on my own, like I said, just for my own personal hobby, and it's quite time consuming with a lot of paperwork. You're going to have other things in terms of, I guess, potentially human resources, things of that nature. I mean, 6 offices for a business of this size, I would counter, is actually, I don't think that excessive. You're talking about 6 or 7 employees.
Have you ever seen an auto body facility, or auto repair facility with 6 offices? I have not. I've never patronized one with that many.
No.
I-
I was in one today. Everything that you're speaking, the operational, logistical operation of an auto body shop could be handled in this general area right here.
Well,
with
and
two desks.
we know that this particular facility is made do, as you have explained to us, with a very small
They have a waiting.
atrium.
Yeah,
I
they have a
think
waiting- they have a
I
waiting
wouldn't even
at this
call
time,
that
yeah.
an office.
It's
But
not.
and I think it's also true that the owner or the business has a couple of other properties along the street. Isn't this right, Mr. Deutsch?
He lives in the property next door, and I think he has one more, I don't remember the address, but if you're at the front of the current entrance, it would be diagonally to the left.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the street number, but it's one or two properties down.
So, I mean, I'll grant you, there is no way that a business that is in as many lines of business as the applicant is in, with the volume that the applicant's business seems to be turning over, could operate out of that vestibule, that atrium. But I think what he's done is to secure space in these other buildings, and he still controls those buildings, doesn't he?
He does. I
Right.
presume, yes.
Right. So,
One of them he lives in, the other one I don't know what the use is.
right. But he's got a house, and he uses that space for the business, I believe. Is that not so?
He lives in the house, right?
No, the next house?
Yeah. When you're on the street looking at our property, the one to the left, where he is.
He has a tenant.
Oh, he's renting it, he has a tenant there, I thought he lived there.
Okay. So one of those houses is his residence, and the other is a rental. And they have neither of them. In neither of those buildings is any space dedicated to the business.
He
I
has an office space in Monroe that his employees are working.
So he's got an off-site location in
That's why he wants to have an office there.
in order. Okay. That helps.
This is going to be like a consortium then. It's going to be
Well-
an auto body shop, it's going to be whatever other businesses he's involved in, all hubbed at this one location.
One
Is
is
that
that
what
he
we're
has is the auto body shop, and he also have, when people are having any accident, he's giving them a car for that, so this is.
So he's got a car.
Rental.
Or not car,
But
it's
this
not
is-
a demo car, it's just
Part of the
cars,
business,
but
yes.
part of the rental.
Jim, it's my understanding that this is not unknown that an auto repair facility is permitted to expand into certain related businesses.
Right.
Okay. So that's no.
I'm just making the conjecture that possibly this could be like a real estate development / auto body / jewelry dealers. You know,
That's part of the approvals from the planning board, that this cannot be any offices rented out for any other tenants. or-
No other purposes. Right. So there is other space being dedicated to business. It's not on Elm Street. It's somewhere else
He has in KJ.
in KJ.
Like in
Okay.
KJ that we're-
And he's moving all of that activity
Just for the auto body shop.
to. he-
Not for the, not only for the auto body shop business. He didn't have only business.
Anything
This-
that's related
yeah,
to the auto body shop business that's currently in KJ, they're moving into this building.
Right. Okay.
I don't know exactly how many employees he has there, but,
Okay.
I mean, even with all that being said, 6 still seems excessive. Because you mentioned rental, you mentioned billing. Even then, that falls short of 6 offices.
Well,
That's my,
I would like to know. I think it's in the applicant's interest to explain why 6 offices are needed. So that's the end of my list of items to clarify.
six is downstairs. That's perception.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, he's right. One of those is actually downstairs. So there's actually 5 upstairs.
Five new ones upstairs.
5 upstairs.
Okay. Well, which, well, yeah, I think we just need to know that there's good reason for those. We hadn't heard about that, and I think we want to hear a little bit about that so that we know that this additional story is necessary. That's all. So now we're at a bit of a turning point, I think. And I think now is the time to engage maybe with Kelly's suggestion that what we need to do is maybe break down these variances a little bit more finely so that there's a very clear path for the board to follow, and it's very clear what is being decided upon. I think that's not a bad idea, and if you're open to it, I'd like to see it done this way. And the one further thing that I'd like to see is some clarity on the office spaces, because, you know, we just didn't touch on that when we had our April meeting. Then I think we would be in a good position to do our five-part balancing test on these now 8 variances, some with subparts. Yeah. So I wonder what do you think of that?
We can do that. Yeah, we'll be glad to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I am sorry that we have not gotten to resolution, but I hope that we can all appreciate that this is a very complicated case with a lot of variances, with a lot of parts. So if now let's then talk about specifics of what this document might say. I think what we want to do is break this down. We've got 8 variances, and we want to say specifically what it is that we're talking about. So where we have, for example, these sections that we talked about earlier, O, I, we want to talk in specific language about just what aspects of this part of the code you're seeking relief from, and why that relief is needed, and just what kind of remedy you need. I think that would help a lot. And then I think we're in a position to next time we meet for this case to sit down and march our way through this, and it's going to be a lot of tests to consider, because my view is that we ought to do this right. We ought to speak to each of the tests for each of the variances. But if we have it well mapped out, I think we can plow through that and come to some resolution. So, and that might give you the benefit of a 5-member board. It is to be hoped. So I think if that's acceptable, I would like to see us take that path.
I don't know if anybody else had any other questions.
I think that's I meant to ask, and I'm glad you reminded me. The chairman had suggested that we should all visit the site. We've had a little time. I hope everybody's had a chance to visit the site, to consider the variances outlined. Did anybody have any questions related to the application, to any of the variances listed? I guess this is the time, because we want to put everything out there and get things cleared up so that we have a free lane for next time. So,
I have no
anybody?
questions.
No, I've asked
Okay.
as we've gone.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So then I think we maybe have gotten to the bottom of things, and yeah, we have a plan.
If I might ask, Mr. Chairman, too, I think one of the other discussions we had was related to the number of vehicles being permitted to be stored and the amount of time those vehicles could be stored.
Right.
That actually I felt was actually the focus of our,
We did spend a lot of time on that in April, yes, indeed. And what was on your mind with,
I think we had discussed 15 cars for 5 days. I think that was the number that we had kind of arrived at. I didn't say that's what the board had.
I just vaguely remember it was totally unenforceable and kind of ludicrous to even continue the conversation about it. But if you want to go with 15, what was the resolution to the 15? Did we agree to that?
Well, no,
I think
we-
the board was supposed to think about it.
we,
Yeah.
we don't agree or disagree until we have
Right.
come to grips with that variance and discuss the balancing tests, and only then do we find out, how we all feel about this proposal. But I think the thing to do is, if you want to be specific about exactly what kind of relief you'd like to have from that part of the code, that can only help. So if you want to be specific there,
We'll add that to the document. I'm gonna
Quite.
provide.
yeah, then the board at least knows exactly what it is you're looking for.
Okay.
All right. Then, I think we need to add you to our July agenda. What do we do there? Are we,
The hearing was already closed, so I think we just need to let them know, I think, when you would like to see the submissions so that they have enough time to prepare it, but you have enough time to review it. So your next meeting is on July 8th. So I would say that you would need it, is 2 weeks enough to prepare that? It would give you 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks for the board to review.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, and then that
2
leaves us
weeks
a little
from today
time
is the 24th.
24th.
to look through it, to ask any, any clarifying questions. Yeah, let's try it like that.
And if you could also email it as you said, the secretary is not here right now.
Well, the secretary has resigned.
I didn't know how to say that. So I guess.
We find
send me a
ourselves,
copy. For sure, I can distribute it.
Yeah, I think I have the chairman's email, and I'll send it to you. I'll copy you as well,
That would be
and then
great.
hopefully he can disseminate it.
that,
I'm just not sure when we're gonna get a replacement to make sure that it gets to the board, so you guys. can-
Kelly, I don't know, but yeah, I appreciate your offering to be our,
I just wanna make sure you have time.
yeah, point of contact. Okay, yeah, what a crazy, crazy moment for our board.
Elizabeth, you wanna come back?
No,
She's like,
Oh.
no, thank you.
come on, we have to plan that approach very carefully if we're going to win her over.
Oh, I just shot myself in the foot.
I don't know, but yeah, she spoiled us, that's for sure. Okay, so then I think we can leave it there to pick up in July.
If I might, if it's okay with the board as well, in the event I'm able to get this done before the 24th, I could email the chair. I'd like to email Kelly just to get an idea for you maybe to look at the table I prepared, see if it meets what I think the intent was, what we discussed tonight, so that if there's any changes, you follow what I'm saying? Is that okay? I don't know if that's okay.
Yeah, you can do that, and I can, if it's okay with the board, say, hey, you missed
They'd have to,
one,
you'd have to,
or.
yeah, you'd have to authorize, you know what I'm saying, for me to communicate with her, but I think that might not be a bad thing. Just to make sure, if not for nothing else, the formatting, to make
And
sure that it
I
looks,
would certainly copy the chairman on any.
I would email it to him and
correspondence.
copy you, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a fine thing. Surely there's nothing, what objection would there be to?
And anything that we would have in these would obviously be foilable by anybody, and also, if anybody was interested, we would bring it up at the following meeting anyway, to say, whatever it was.
what may have happened.
I just
in
think
the
it might be
interim.
useful, because it's a little tricky. There's some subsections.
It's difficult, yeah.
So I just want to make sure if we're looking at it, that we try to get it right the first time through, that's all.
Indeed, we don't want any, we want to be as efficient as we can, certainly from this point. So, yeah, I'm sorry that we couldn't drill down all the way to the bottom, but I hope you understand that there were these things that needed a little clarification. I hope we are, some steps closer, and yeah, hopefully we can resolve this next time.
We'll be glad to provide that information to you guys.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your time today. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yep, you too. Okay. But now, we are not yet done. Because we have minutes from April and May awaiting approval. I have myself had a look at these minutes, and I wonder if you all have too. And can we vote on these minutes? Everybody has, okay. So, our April minutes were fairly involved, as we had a lengthy discussion on this Elm case. But I went through them myself, and while there were a couple of tiny things, I think there is nothing that has to be tweaked. I think they must have been looked. I think the chairman must have looked at these. They're pretty clean in my view. I would move that we accept these minutes as they have been drafted. I don't know. Did anybody have anything from the April minutes that they want to see changed?
No.
Okay. So can I have a second that we accept these April minutes as drafted?
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have May minutes. These are, I think, a little bit easier. I don't know if this is a one-sheeter. Has everybody had a chance to look through these, and did anybody have anything that concerned them about the May minutes? Okay. So I would move that we accept these May minutes as drafted. Thank you, Elizabeth. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we will approve both of those. I will note, too, that the chairman, no, it wasn't the chairman. It was Kim, our village clerk, asked that we check our contact data. Did everybody get a chance? Elizabeth, I know you got a chance to look at that. Do have a look at that and make sure that she wants to know that she's got your email address and your phone number right. Seems like we have touched on this recently, but I guess it's on her mind again. So please do have a look and see that that is correct. And I think then that we are at the end. Unless anybody has any further old or new business, we have a new case I know on the way for 330 Stage Road, but that one needs review, but the application is with us. But that's what I know about new business. Does anybody have any old and or new business that we should touch upon? No. Then, in the absence of Dan, who likes to do this, I will move that we close the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay, and we are closed.